Good morning, America, and welcome to this morning's huddle brought to you by Going on Offense. My name is Darrell Moon, and I'll be your host today. Thank you for being with us, and we hope you'll join the conversation. We have a wonderful guest panelist with us today to talk about implementing stress management tools during chaotic times. We're holding these huddles every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday in an effort to support those struggling, to brainstorm strategies to help, to promote resources, and to engage collaboration. Now to introduce today's guest. It's my pleasure to introduce my friend, Dr. Michael Olpin, Professor of Health Promotion and Director of the WSU Stress Relief Center at Weber State University. I'm going to invite Dr. Olpin to take 4 or 5 minutes to introduce himself and to share a comment or two about today's topic. But before I do, I want to invite you to participate today. Please feel free to raise your hand on your control box and I'll turn on your microphone and you can join the conversation. Or if you'd just like to send in a question or a comment through the control box, you can do that as well. Dr. Olpin, would you like to introduce yourself?
Okay, well, thank you very much for inviting me. I'm very excited to be here. It's always my pleasure to spend time with other people who are working on improving well-being. That's been kind of my focus for about 35 years now. And I guess it all started when I was living in California, involved with some service, and I got really fat. I got I just got really overweight. And in 1980, that was an unusual thing to see somebody who was overweight, or to be overweight. And I had never been that way before. And I thought, man, this doesn't work for me to be overweight. And so, and back in 1980, you didn't see too many people who were focusing on health and well-being, but I got a hold of a book, and it was kind of a nutrition book, and I thought, this is different than anything that I've ever been taught about how to eat. And so I started exercising. I started changing my diet. I really, and it was at that point where I started feeling enormously better, that I thought, wow, this is interesting, and I want to keep doing this. And back then, it really wasn't a thing that people did to focus on wellness and well-being. And I thought, I was really involved with sports most of my life, and still am to a huge degree. But I decided I wanted to be a sports psychologist, because I've always, it occurred to me a long time ago that the mental game is much more than the physical game. What goes on in the mind is much more important than what goes on in the body. And once you reach a certain level of proficiency, and so I thought, I want to work with athletes. And I went to the U of U, the guy at the U of U who was kind of the sports psychologist, and he said, yeah, this is what we do, and you don't want to do this because there's not a future in it. And so I thought, oh man, but I want to still, and so it occurred to me that the biggest problem that athletes have at the mental level had to do with their stress. In other words, the stress of, am I going to perform well? What happens if I don't perform well? All of those thoughts get in the way of them performing at their peak. And so it occurred to me, I kind of had this epiphany or whatever. I want to figure out what's going on in the mind. I want to figure out why it is that some people can remain calm in situations and other people in the same situation lose it. And so it was then that I decided, well, I'm going to go to school. I ended up in the psychology department at BYU, and that was a good start. But most of what I've learned on my own, just reading and studying and testing and experimenting. And then people started asking me to come do presentations and workshops and that. And so I I've worked with thousands and thousands of people over the years, and I ended up, I went to school, got a PhD after a master's and a bachelor's degree so that I could teach at the university, because I realized I love to teach what I do. I love to teach this, what I know, and not a lot of other people are really teaching this with stress management and mind-body wellness at the university level. There's a lot of great nutrition and fitness programs, but not a lot of people are doing this with stress with the purpose of improving well-being. There's a lot of, psychology programs that focus on fixing the problem. And we have to have that. We have to have that side of it. But I've always been interested in, how do we take somebody who's well and move them to an even more well state, mentally, psychologically, and stress management seems to be at the heart of that. And so over the years, I've written a few books, I've written textbooks, and I've got to teach the stress management class to thousands of people here at Weber State. And we did develop a stress relief center where we have, on the average, about 70 people come in every day. And we assess them for stress when they come in. And then we have a whole bunch of tools here in our little center, mostly massage chairs and chi machines and other meditation kind of activities. And then we test them afterwards and see if there's any change. And we've had 3 articles published from our center. And in every case, we measure stress levels, we measure physical pain levels that might be related to stress. We measure resting heart rate and blood pressure. And in every case, we found that when they do the things that we have them do in there, the measures in a statistically significant way come down. Yes. And so since then, I've been working to develop. So many people have said, you need to do what you do at Weber State everywhere else. And so for the last 6 or 7 years, I've been developing a stress relief center off campus. So it's to be online, to be available. Virtual. And we're getting ready to launch that. I think our official launch for that finally will be on the 15th of June, and we're excited to share that with the world, because the one thing that I don't see, I mean, we see a lot of problems in health not getting better, obesity is not going down, heart disease is not going down, diabetes is not going down. I mean, we've got a lot of challenges ahead of us for health and well-being, but stress isn't going down either. And so that's kind of the niche that I have locked into. I really love focusing on the physical part and the nutrition, and I've been studying those for the same number of years, but I find the greatest joy in helping somebody go from a state of, like, it's the most cool thing to see somebody who after 10 minutes, they'll tell me their headache's gone after we do a type of meditation with them, or if I work them through a yoga sequence, or if I do something with them that is kind of restructuring how they're thinking about something, and to have them feel better, and to not only that, give them tools to be able to use day to day, moment to moment, so that they can, in the midst of all the craziness, be peaceful inside. You can't do anything about what's out there, but as soon as we recognize that I can do something about what's happening here, then we can take that control and figure out how to use that control, what to do so that we remain peaceful, so we remain calm, so we remain not with the stress response on. And there's not too many situations that I know of where having the stress response on helps. I can't think of, nothing's made better when the stress response is on, except those very, very rare occasions when we are in real danger. But our society and our culture, we've set it up so it's very infrequent that we have dangerous situations in our day-to-day living. We're very safe, very comfortable, and we like it that way. And so stress, at getting it out of our experience, is a fun it's a fun adventure to help somebody to go, wow, I don't have to be stressed. And it's fun to have tools that work so that the stress response can turn off and the stress response can stay off. And that's kind of my that's what I'm about, and I really enjoy playing with it.
So I'm interested in these 70 people that come in on a daily basis. Are these the same 70 people for a number of days, or is 70 new people each day coming into experience a one-day event? And how do people hear about this?
Sorry, what was the very last thing you said?
And how do people hear about it? And are they mostly college students, or are they ranges from youth to adults? Give me a little bit of an idea as to who comes into your center.
Yeah, we don't advertise. It's entirely word of mouth, because if we did advertise, we'd be overrun. We wouldn't be able to handle the load, just because, and we're kind of off in one part of the campus that's not the middle of campus, because we couldn't handle, there would be just too many. But it's not the same people every day, and people frequently return over and over again, maybe once a week or twice a week. And it is students, faculty, staff, and community members. Essentially, if you can get in the gym, you have access to the Stress Relief Center, because that's where it is on the campus, is in the Swenson gym. And but we don't have any kind of structure to it as to who can and can't come in. We just say, you're welcome if you want to come in, and just do the testing at first. It takes about 2 minutes to initially assess you, and then they usually spend, on the average, people spend 30 minutes in there. That's an average, and we've had about 8,000. We've had about, since 2008, we've had about 20,000 people who've used our center.
Come through in. So, Dr. Olpin, give us some basics. If you were to summarize what you've learned into 3 or 4 basics of managing stress, tell us a little bit about the principles that have become so valuable to you and that you teach, and that people can take advantage of.
Well, I think the first thing that I want people to know, I remember I was having a conversation like this with somebody in Canada not too long ago, and she asked me, what do you think is the biggest myth that people associate with stress? What's the biggest belief that people have about stress that's not accurate? And I said, well, I think the biggest misconception that people have about stress is that stress is something that happens to them, like a virus, like a pathogen. That stress is something that happens out there, that comes to them, that suddenly makes them stressed. And so the first principle, the first thing that we want to get into people's awareness is, it's that you, and I don't mean for this to be sounding like a victim, but once you recognize you did it to yourself, you immediately have some control. It immediately gives you the opportunity to have some control. Because if stress just happens to us, we can't control it. We can't do anything about it. Like if everybody who's on the freeway had the same stress, you know, when it's rush hour traffic, everybody would have road rage.
Mm-hmm.
But not everybody does, which tells me that it's not the rush hour traffic, it's how people are interpreting the traffic.
How we respond.
Right. And so the first thing we do, I spend a lot of time explaining how the stress response is designed only for physical survival. It's designed to keep us alive because our ancestors, you know, thousands of years ago, it became a part of them because they recognized being alive is a good call. And so, but they had to stay alive when there were dangerous situations. We don't have those same dangerous situations, but we still have the same body that our ancestors had, the same, you know, physiology. And so whenever we sense a threat, and that is the sole activator of our stress response, whenever we sense a threat, no matter what it is, the body doesn't recognize that when we say uh-oh to something, that it's not a bear. Our body thinks it's a bear. Whenever we say, uh-oh, this is bad, uh-oh, I wish I wouldn't have, I wish, you know, whatever it is, our body thinks when we say that it's a bear because that's how it was with our ancestors. And so the first thing that we want to do is figure out how to reinterpret the situations without the uh-oh thought, without the I'm in trouble, I'm in danger, this is bad thought. Things are really important, things are really, you know, serious, but they're not threatening, they're not life-threatening. And if we can get that out of our thinking, then we can essentially prevent the stress response from happening in the first place. And I use 3 questions that if you answer these questions accurately, you do essentially prevent the stress response from happening. The first question is, am I in danger? Am I going to die here? And this is a conversation you're having with yourself, not with anybody else. You're asked, and you say, am I in danger of dying in this situation? And if you say to yourself, well, no, I'm not going to die here, your body listens to that and goes, okay, I don't need to turn on the juices of what my ancestors needed to get away from or fight that threat. And so the body essentially says, okay. And the second question we can ask is, can I handle this without dying? In other words, it kind of sounds the same way, but what you do with this question is you say, have I done this before, or has somebody else done this before without dying? And the answer is almost always, well, yeah, I've done this before, or somebody else has, and they didn't die. Like the number one social fear in this country right now, so the social fear is public speaking. It has always been the kind of, and I always ask students, the people I work with, have you ever seen anyone die or get, you know, physically harmed public speaking? And, you know, apart from George Bush once long ago when he had to duck from a shoe, nobody dies public speaking. And so if you have that conversation with yourself, if you say to yourself, well, I'm not gonna, nothing's gonna happen to me and I can handle this without dying, or then your body goes, oh, okay, then I don't need to turn on the juices. And then the third question, which I spend half a semester talking about, it's an enormous part of my online training, is can I think about this differently? Because if our stress is activated by our thoughts, that threat thought, if I can change that thought to something else besides a threat, the stress response won't turn on. And so we use all kinds of tools to help us, or all kinds of, I don't know if tools is the right word, methods or mental techniques that keep the uh-oh thought out of the conversation as we're interpreting what's going on. Because yeah, things look crazy. Things look, especially, I mean, we've seen in the last little while all kinds of strange changes.
True.
And none of those, unless you're actually at the place where the riots are happening, aren't happening for you.
Right.
In that moment. And so to think about it in a different way, and we use all kinds of tools like being mindful. We really, really focus a lot of time on teaching people how to be mindful, staying in this moment, right here, right now, because right here, right now is a safe place. 99.9% of the time, yours and my here and now, in other words, where we are, is safe. And so our whole job is to bring our awareness to here and now, as opposed to somewhere else and some other time. If you think of fear and anger, which I think are the two primary stress emotions.
Right.
Fear is a focus on the future, and the thought that is there's going to be a bad outcome in the future. Anger is a looking at the past, and there are variations to this, but anger is always a looking at the past and thinking that shouldn't have happened that way.
Yep.
Right? And in either case, when we say that to ourselves, oh, this is going to be bad or that was bad, our body doesn't know that there's a future or a past. It just knows now. And so it reacts as if it's happening now. And so we get a stress response to something that isn't happening now, but our body thinks it is, because the physiology can't live in the future or the past. And so what we do with mindfulness is we put our awareness where our presence is through practice and, through all kinds of mental and physical techniques, so that we are present with what is right here and now. And the instant we do that, it's almost meditative. The instant we bring ourselves to this moment, our awareness to this moment here and now, our body goes, oh, I'm good. I'm peaceful. I'm not in danger. And when our body gets the message, I'm not in danger, it relaxes. It goes back into balance. You're either in fight or flight, or you're in rest and repair, one or the other. And most of the time when we're thinking in the future and we're starting to get, this is going to happen, that's going to happen, and that might be scary, or we think of the past, I wish that wouldn't have happened, we stay in fight or flight. But the instant we become mindful, and we've got all kinds of other tools that help to do that, our body recognizes, okay, we're here and now, and then it goes back into rest and repair, and the body heals itself and things get better and we feel good. And so becoming mindful is one of those powerful ways of focusing our mind on what's something other than the threat thought. 'Cause that's the thing we have to get rid of, is the threat thought, really. I mean, everybody who's ever studied stress, ultimately that's the culprit, is the threat thought, when there's no real threat. And so we use other tools like acceptance. You know, if you can't control it, accept it. If you can control it, accept it. And there's nothing else. You know, you either can or can't control it, accept it. Being grateful is one of those that I've tried to find an exception to this, but I don't think it's possible to be stressed and grateful at the same time.
Really? Interesting.
Sorry?
Interesting.
Yeah, the two thoughts are diametrically opposite each other. Grateful is, I'm good with that this is happening. I'm happy about it. I appreciate it. And the threat thought on the other side is, this shouldn't be happening this way. This is going to be bad. And so when we keep our focus on thankfulness, on gratitude, on appreciation of what is, you can't think two thoughts, more than one thought at the same time. You can only have one dominant thought at a time. And so if your thought is maintained on appreciation and thankfulness and gratitude, you effectively prevent the stress response from being activated. And so, and you can do that. I mean, that's another one of those really cool tools that you can just practice all day long. I'm grateful and then finish the sentence. And once you start recognizing, I'm grateful I can breathe, I'm grateful I have this beautiful day, I'm grateful and you start doing that, you recognize there are millions of things to be grateful for. And the more you stay focused on those things, the less you have room for that threat thought to creep in. So those are some of the things that we look at that are kind of in the prevention mode. The other side of that, sometimes we forget. Sometimes we're in the middle of something and suddenly we realize, man, I am just freaking out. Even the best of us. I do a lot of coaching, and I coach my kids in a lot of sports. And when there are bad refs, I find myself I just get upset. And I realize, man, I need to do something to get back in balance. So we have, on the one side, we have prevent it, but we also need tools that help turn it off. And so those are things like, exercise, yoga, meditation, guided relaxation. Certainly eating clean helps. There are things that we can do nutritionally that are beneficial for keeping us out of the stress response, or helping us regain balance. We do a lot of focusing on helping people get to sleep, because sleep seems to be, it's kind of two sides of the same coin. If you're not sleeping well, it's more stressful, and stress seems to make it so you don't sleep as well. And so that's one of the first things that we try to help people do, is with some of my guided relaxation exercises that are designed for sleep, where people go from taking an hour or two to fall asleep to falling asleep within minutes. And it's all about getting the body-mind back into a mindful state, getting the body-mind relaxed through breathing, through various, you can do all kinds of things with the physiology, with breathing, and with mental imagery. And it's different for every person. Not everything, like progressive relaxation may work well for one person, but not so well for another. So we've found that you need quite a few different fall asleep techniques until you find the one that really works for you, so that within 30 seconds to a minute of your head lying down, you're falling asleep. And the thing that I have found that I think is not my discovery, it's everybody who's studying this knows, is the better your exercise, the cleaner you're eating, the more relaxed you are during the day, the more easily you'll fall asleep. And the better your sleep, the more you're able to do those other things. So they're very synergistic. They very much support each other. And just like when people go in the other direction, health-wise, I think we can go in a very positive direction as we use each of those tools, doing a little bit. You don't have to overdo it, but using a little bit of yoga, using a little bit of meditation, a little bit of exercise, getting good quality sleep, taking naps if you need to, very short ones. I mean, all of these things make it so that every single day you're not going in the direction of disease and disorder, but instead you're going in the direction of getting better, feeling stronger, and feeling healthier. Because at the end of the day, you don't do yoga for the sake of doing yoga. You don't meditate for the sake of meditation. You don't, well, I kind of work out because I really love, I bike a lot, and I really love that. But we do these wellness things so that we can do everything else we need to do better. That's health. And when we can get ourselves moving in a direction where we're healing on a regular basis by putting the body back in balance and letting it heal itself, then little by little we get better and better and better. And it shows up in our relationships. It shows up in our relationship with ourselves. We just feel good. We don't ache all the time. We wake up and we go, wow, I'm awake and I'm ready to go today. And we're not dragging at 3 in the afternoon, wishing that we could find our caffeine to keep us going. And so it's really synergistic, and all of these things play with each other. But at the end of the day, I really feel like the stress management piece is as important as, you know, you always hear eat right and exercise, eat right and exercise. Everybody always says that. But I think they're leaving out a piece that's so important, the mental piece, the stress piece, because if you're eating, I know plenty of people who eat right and exercise who are just ready to explode inside. But as soon as they learn how to meditate or relax and they learn how to get back in balance, then it adds to the value of their eating right and exercising. So to my mind, it's one of those best things we can do for ourselves. And I do it, you know, personally, I do these things every single day or as much as possible, because I know that the things that I love to do necessitate that I'm body, mind doing okay.
In a good place.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense. So I'm curious, with all the study you've done, we know that there's different elements of our brain. The brain is not one, there's different parts of our brain. When we talk about our conscious brain or our stresses, or we talk about our body and the fact that our body feels the stress, is it really different areas of our brain that's experiencing that? Talk a little bit about how the brain works in that management of stress, if you would.
Well, I think to keep it as simple as I need it to be, our conscious mind, frontal lobe stuff is kind of the engineer, and it's, you know, it's surveying the situation, and it's always interpreting what's going on. It's making sense of the situation, and it's always asking the question. One of the things it's always asking is, every minute is, am I safe? That's its probably one of its primal ongoing thoughts is, am I safe here? Am I safe here? Am I safe here? And as long as we're safe, as long as we're safe, then it's free to do everything else that a conscious mind does. theorizes, it conceptualizes, it plans, it creates, all of those things. But as soon as that thought of am I safe changes to no, then our more primitive brain, that part of us that is the autonomic nervous system, that's connected to the autonomic nervous system, to our endocrine system, so adrenaline and cortisol, to as soon as that thought is no, I'm not safe, then the message goes to, wherever that is here, and the hypothalamus, the pituitary gland, they immediately kick in with the two stress hormones, as well as a neurological flood that makes it so that the fight or flight response kicks in. As long as we keep saying at a conscious level, I am safe, then those things don't activate, and we're free to function normally and freely doing whatever we do. But as soon as that one thought connects with the more primitive mind, and it's either activating it or it isn't, and unfortunately it does it far too much, because we keep saying I'm not safe to things we're plenty safe for.
So talk a little bit about the fact that, and we spent some time on one of the other huddles talking to one of the guest speakers about our relationship with other people. And often it's our comparison with other people or worrying about what other people think of us that activates that stress response. It's not the bears, it's often how we react or interact with other people. Would you agree?
Oh, 100%, I would agree. Yeah, I think that, well, again, it still goes back to that one thought. Am I going to be embarrassed by this person? What will that person think of me? And whatever we make up, still, if it includes that, uh-oh, they might not approve of this, or they might not like that. See, our body doesn't, our body's not looking out here going, you're not in danger. It's just listening to what we say to ourselves here. And if it is, oh, I know those people, like, if you're giving a speech, or you're calling up somebody and asking her out on a date or something, or you're calling up somebody who's going in for an interview or something, and if you add the thought, this person won't like me, this person won't approve what I'm saying or doing, the body's not going, it's just listening for, am I going to be safe or not? Again, I mean, every single time that threat thought is the cause of all of our stress. And however and that's why I love working. I work with athletes, and I work with performers, and I work with business people, and it's always the same cause. It's not what's happening out there, it's how I'm thinking about what's happening out there. So if I'm thinking, I'm going to be embarrassed by this person, they're going to think awful things about me, the body interprets that as there's a bear that's going to attack me. And so, yeah, it's the same thing. And the good news is, the really, really good news about that is, and we see this all the time, we can verify this is the case because people do things that we would be embarrassed about all the time and don't get embarrassed. And so we realize, oh, I guess I can do that. I guess I don't need to be embarrassed. It's not always easy, but we can train ourselves to interpret things in whatever ways will make it so that we stay peaceful.
talk a little bit about, thank you, talk a little bit about some of the different techniques that you promote and recommend. And I know there's many, many, but some of the ones that are your favorites to educate people about, whether that's yoga, meditation, mindfulness, engaging the relaxation response. Give us some of your keys that you like to educate people on.
Sure. I laugh because we have so little time. And when I was in my 20s, I was diagnosed with high blood pressure. And I was doing what I thought was right. I was thought I was eating pretty well, and I was exercising, you know, what you're supposed to do. But I had dangerously high blood pressure. And I went to the doctor, and he said, "You're going to have to be on medication for the rest of your life. You chose the wrong parents." I mean, there was a genetic piece to that, because my mom had been on high blood pressure medication, and her parents both had been on high blood pressure medication their whole lives. And so the doctor said, "Too bad, you know, you're," and I did not. I mean, I'm all for medicine in its right place, but I don't like the idea of being on a medication for the rest of my life. And so I came upon, at the time I was working at a library in Provo, and there was a bunch of books on meditation. And back then there was no internet. There was nothing really that I was telling this to somebody. They said, "Well, read these books on meditation." And they were all dusty because nobody ever read books on meditation back then. But I read them, and one of the things that they said was, if you meditate, it will take care of besides a lot of other benefits, it'll help with high blood pressure. And so I thought, that sounds better. I mean, along with all the other benefits that I didn't know about at the time that meditation had. But in Provo in 1980, in mid-80s, in 1988, where do you go to learn how to meditate? But there happened to be a guy who came through, and my wife and I both ended up learning how to meditate. The technique was called Transcendental Meditation. And the first time I did it, it was the most unbelievably mind cleaning thing I had ever done to that point. I mean, it just felt, it was weird, and it's a long story to explain how it went, but ultimately, when I was done meditating that first time, I had never felt, it's like somebody had opened up my head and poured in cleanser into my brain, and I just felt so clean and clear. And I thought, this is the greatest thing I've ever experienced. And so, to make a long story really short, my blood pressure went down. I've never needed medication, and I test myself pretty frequently. And after a few years of doing it on my own, I figured out how to teach it to other people, so that without because there's a lot of mystical, it's not a religion, but there's a lot of stuff in transcendental meditation that I didn't feel comfortable teaching other people. But the structure of meditation as they teach it is easy to learn. It's a simple process, and I've taught thousands of people how to meditate, and it's a simple process that takes very little time. Within an hour, you could be an expert meditating in this process. There's a lot of ways to meditate, but this particular one seems to be, to my mind and my experience, for most people, the best way to take the mind and body from fight or flight to rest and repair. It just really is enormously powerful. It's a very mindful process, but it's a structured process that I teach you, and it's in an hour you're an expert. And then I just say to people, do this every day for the rest of your life. And
So is that something that takes an hour, or is it something that literally you can do in 10 to 15 minutes?
Well,
And if so, is it something you can teach us now what the basics of it is? Is that something you can share with us in the next few minutes? Or does it take an hour to teach it?
well, it takes a little bit of time to explain the process. The essentially, I mean, just the essence of it is you sit. We don't. So here's how I visualize this. On one side we have, or one tool we have is guided relaxation, which you listen to somebody, and I've made like 50 or 60 different of these, where you listen to me as I walk you through whether it's a breathing exercise or autogenics or progressive relaxation, and in 15 minutes you followed my direction and you're quite a bit more relaxed. Meditation is a different something that you do entirely on your own. And with the relaxation exercise, usually we have you do it lying down. With this one, you're sitting in a chair and you close your eyes, and essentially, I mean, the nuts of bolts of it is it's very simple. You just decide on a word, and what I've found is it doesn't really matter what that word is at all. And it's the strangest thing. That you hear people using the word om or other things, chanting and stuff, but you don't do it out loud. You do it silently to yourself. And it would sound something like, if I were to use the word one, for example, and I've used hundreds of different words myself, as have people who I've worked with. But if I were to use the word one, all I would do is, after about 30 seconds of getting mindful, then I just start repeating that word, and it would sound like this. Only not out loud, but I'm going to do it out loud so you can see how it sounds inside. So I would just go one, 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 one. And that's really all there is to it. Now, the weird thing about meditation is, and almost everybody who I've ever taught who's said this, who's confronted me with this question, they'll say, I can't possibly do that for 15 minutes. And because they think their mind is busier than everyone else's. Oh, I can't possibly meditate because my mind's is so busy. And I say, that's everybody. Everybody's mind is like a bumblebee hive with bumblebees flying all around. And all those bees are different thoughts. I mean, that's just everybody. And so, but what you do with meditation is you have all your thoughts and you just slide the word in underneath. You're not trying to get rid of your thoughts. You just allow that word to keep repeating at that pace. And as your mind wanders off to other things, you just kind of, oh yeah, you catch it and bring it back. One, and your mind will start thinking about other things, and you just go, oh yeah. You be very gentle with yourself. You be very easy with, it should be as effortless as humanly possible. And because anybody can do one, busy, one. Anybody can do that. And after about 15 minutes, when I learned it, they gave me this special word, and they said, this is why Transcendental Meditation, this is where they claim to, I mean, they charge $2,500 to learn this process that I teach for not so much. And but they give you a special word. They say this mantra is yours and yours alone. And I found out later on that it happened to be, that's not true. Everybody who was between 25 and 30 had that same word, who's a male. So, but as I've and I'm not the only one who's been really studying this. There were people at Harvard, people at UCLA who were studying it pretty in depth, saying, can we do it without that secret mantra? You know, can we do it with just the process? And when I saw them doing that, I thought, yeah, let me try. And so I've been working since, goodness, 1996, when I started teaching it at the university back east. And it doesn't make any difference what that word is. And then the most important part of meditation by far is how you finish it, as far as how you'll feel afterwards. So after you're done, and you whatever it is, and you can still just check your watch or have an alarm or something that says, you know, it's been 15 minutes, because you might fall asleep. And then you just take about 2 or 3 minutes, which seems like a long time, to slowly bring yourself from that quiet mind state back to normal consciousness. So like, you don't be in a hurry, because if you hurry out of meditation, it'll feel the same way as if you bolted out of or been jolted out of a dream, you know, at night. I mean, they've done studies with people with electroencephalograms while they're meditating, and you can reach sleeping levels within 5 minutes, brainwave wise. You can reach theta and delta levels of brainwave activity within 5 minutes of meditating. What would take a couple hours at sleeping, but in meditating, you can do it within 5 minutes. And while you're meditating, you're in deep rest and repair, and all the body mind is recognizing, oh, no stress, no. That's, you know, when you're saying one, you're not simultaneously thinking of the big bear. And so your body mind is just healing like crazy. I have no idea what it feels like to have a headache, and I have no idea what it feels like to be depressed. And I'm not saying that because I'm anything special. I'm not. If you knew my genes, there's nothing special about us. But when I meditate regularly and practice yoga, I don't go to yoga classes. I just this morning I spent 10 minutes just doing some stretching and breathing. But when I do those things over and over, and when people who I work with do those things over and over, little by little, it's kind of like, I love this analogy. You have this bottle of ink, and then you have a handkerchief. And each time you dip the handkerchief into the ink bleeds up more onto the handkerchief. And that's how it is each time we meditate and do yoga and do relaxation exercises, is the more we do those things, the more that restful, peaceful nature bleeds up into the rest of our day. So that after doing it for a while, we realize things that used to set us off we don't get sick. I'm not saying this, I never get sick. And the instant I notice that there's something coming on, I do yoga, meditate, make sure my eating is clean, make sure my sleep's good. And my immune system just goes, all righty then, let's crank. And
so Dr. Olpin, we have a question and we're almost out of time. So let me ask this real quickly and maybe you can respond. What are your thoughts on devices that help people meditate or lower stress by directly working on biosignaling process such as brain waves, etc.? The new Calm device, the Muse device, etc.
Yeah, and I like those. It's biofeedback. We started playing with biofeedback a long time. My master's degree played with biofeedback, where we measured people. And the cool thing about biofeedback, those devices, is you recognize, they are training you to recognize when you are relaxed, so that you can get yourself there. What am I thinking about now that's creating this relaxation response? That's what those devices are designed to do, or they're designed just to kind of guide you into deeper level of relaxation. And I think they're fantastic. Personally, I think it's better to figure out, to train yourself and then wean off them, so that you can just know what works best for you. Because everyone is individual, and so you have to kind of test what works. But those things, they're valuable, and I like them. We use the Muse over at the Stress Relief Center. We used biofeedback for years until it kind of got crowded out with massage chairs. But I like them.
Well, Dr. Olpin, this has been fascinating. Thank you very much. Since we're running out of time, I'm just going to go ahead and say thanks, and also mention that our guest panelist for Friday, June 5th, will be Melissa Kerr. Dr. Kerr is an integrative physical therapist and owner of Well Therapies, a company that provides education, training, and experiences in integrative wellness methods to support lifestyle modifications. Dr. Kerr will be sharing her thoughts about integrative lifestyle interventions, blending yoga and physical therapy. So very similar to what we've been talking about today. We want to thank you, Dr. Olpin, again for your time today. Thanks for all of your great wisdom. And we're going to sign off now, and just remind people that we do this every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and encourage you to join us again in a upcoming huddle. Thanks, and have a great day.